plow were out working already, first thing in the morning. Ted hadn't woken up completely yet. Ted! Ted! Called someone, and the little tractor looked around sleepy. Yes, murmured Ted. Here! Shouted the voice. Sam, is that you? Asked Ted.
Yes, and I'm tired of waiting. I want to go to the field to scare crows,
He said in an irritated voice.
but the big blue tractor has to finish working in the field first.
Said Ted.
I know, but maybe he's finished already. He's been out there since early this morning.
Said Sam the Scarecrow. I'll check for you, said Ted, and off he went to the field.
Good morning, Ted.
Said the hens.
Good morning, hens. Beep, beep.
Ted sounded his horn. By the time he got to the field, Ted was out of breath. He decided to take a break and watch the big blue tractor and the plow working.
It's too bad I'm not a big, strong tractor like the big blue tractor. Then I would be able to work the field,
Thought Ted. But even the big blue tractor looked small in the big field, and to Ted's surprise, in all this time, he had only been able to work a small piece of field. My goodness me, Sam the Scarecrow will be very disappointed, Dick said to himself. Ted was on his way back to the shed when the gulls looking for breakfast for him caught his attention. I'm lucky I'm a tractor and not a gull. I would never be able to eat worms. Yuck, thought Ted. While Ted looked up at the gulls, he wasn't paying any attention to where he was going, and suddenly he tripped and turned over onto his side. Baked potatoes! What's happened? Squeaked Ted. And though he tried to go forward and backward, he couldn't because his two wheels were in the air. The big blue tractor came closer. Then Roy jumped out of the cab and walked over to Ted. What are you doing here, Ted? But before he had a chance to answer, Roy lifted him out. You look frightened, Ted. Are you okay? Asked Roy. I'm okay, said Ted. You know, Roy, I would love to work on the field and plant seeds, said Ted. Well, maybe you can help Molly do that stuff in the garden, said Roy. That's a good idea, said Ted, and off he went. Before heading to the garden, Ted popped into the machine shed to tell Sam the Scarecrow that the big blue tractor had not finished working the field.
Goodness gracious! That means I'll be in this shed for days,
said Sam in a disappointed voice.
No, of course you won't,
said Ted.
He will finish by tonight, you'll see. I'll go back to the field before lunch to see how he's coming along.
Okay.
But I have to go now. I'm on my way to the garden to help Molly. Bye-bye,
said Ted, tooting his horn.
Toot toot.
He's a lucky tractor, said Sam the Scarecrow, sadly. But that was that. There was nothing for Sam to do but wait and dream that his feet were in the mud, and he was doing his job of scaring the crows far, far away. In the garden, Ted and Molly were busy gardening. It was Ted's job to carry the plants, and Molly's job to plant them.
I'm going to plant some potatoes first,
Molly said. One potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 4 potatoes. And by the time she had reached the end of the row, there were no potatoes left in the box. Now then, what about the lettuce? Said Molly. At that, Molly started to plant lettuce plants. 1 lettuce, 2 lettuces, 3 lettuces, 4, and by the end of the row, all the lettuce plants were planted and the box was empty. Toot toot! Well done! Tooted Tech happily. My word, look at the time, Tech. I'd better go and prepare lunch, said Molly, pulling off her gardening gloves. Goodness gracious, said Tech. I promised Sam that I would go back to the field to see how the big tractor was coming along. With that, he raced out of the garden. Molly gathered the equipment and off she went into the house. Tech drove past the shed and up the road and through the gate to the field where the big blue tractor was still working. As Molly prepared lunch, she noticed a funny sound coming from outside. She looked in the garden, but there was nothing there making noise, just clean clothes drying in the sun. She looked across the farmyard. Nothing there either. But as she turned to return to the house, she heard some clucking coming from the garden. She went back to the garden to see what was going on. What a shock! Someone was in the garden this time. She saw a pair of horns and some feathery tails. Gertie the goat and the hens. They were all pecking and scratching and stomping in the garden. Shoo! Shoo! Out you go, you naughty things! She shouted at them. Tech was dragging across the farmyard when he heard all the shouting from the garden. Oh my goodness, he squeaked. He drove as fast as his wheels could take him to the garden. Out you go! Toot! Shouted Tech, tooting his horn angrily. Out you go! Shoo! And at last, Tech and Molly got all the animals to finally leave the garden. What a mess the animals had made. While the big blue tractor was working in the field, Tech and Molly tried to straighten up the garden. We've finished at last, said Molly. Thanks for your help, Tech. You're welcome, Molly. And Tech drove out of the garden. Molly made sure that she closed the gate this time. After all this excitement, Tech headed back to the field to watch the big blue tractor work some more. By the time he arrived, the big blue tractor had finished over half of the field. Great! Sam will be delighted, said Tech happily. But then, all at once, the big blue tractor stopped. He didn't move another inch. Tech went closer to see what was wrong. Oh, I don't feel well. I've got a tummy ache, moaned the big blue tractor. And indeed, he did look sick, and there was a very strange noise coming from his tummy. After putting his head under the hood, Roy said, "I know what's wrong with him." And he asked Tech to go to the tool shed to get a new fuel filter for the big blue tractor. "Of course I'll go," said Tech, before tooting his horn and heading out. "The big blue tractor must have a terrible tummy ache," said Tech. Once Tech reached the farmyard, it didn't take long to find the fuel filter and bring it back to the field. Roy quickly let the air out of the big blue tractor's tummy and put the new fuel filter in to replace the old one. "Oh, that's better," said the big blue tractor as Roy climbed into the cab and started the engine. The tractor felt a lot better, although he still looked a bit tired. "Plowing the field must be very hard work, even for a big tractor," thought Tech. But how on earth was he going to tell Sam that the big tractor still hadn't finished work? "Toot toot! Sam!" Tech sounded his horn as they got into the shed. But what a shock! Sam the Scarecrow wasn't there. Where had he gone? Tech was tired after going back and forth between the shed and the field all day, and he didn't feel like going to look for Sam the Scarecrow. But he decided that he should at least check to make sure that Gertie and the hens hadn't crept back in the garden again. As he headed towards the garden, Tech heard something. "Hey, Tech! Look at me! Tech! Tech!" Tech followed the voice into the garden. And who do you think was standing in the middle of the potato patch? That's right, it was Sam the Scarecrow. "What are you doing here, Sam the Scarecrow?" shouted Tech. "No, I'm Sam the Scare Hens now," laughed Sam. "Oh, well that's good. By the way, the big blue tractor hasn't finished working yet," said Tech. "Oh, I don't care about the field now. I'm enjoying myself here in the garden," said Sam the Scare Hens.